you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows as a supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Supernatural as well as the latest episode of Legacies. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I close the time and I'll start talking about each of the respective shows. So for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of Supernatural, you can skip to what I say about this week's episode of Legacies. But the first thing we're going to talk about is this week's episode of Supernatural. A great episode. In this episode, we have the team hunting down what turns out to be a Gorgon, which is interesting. I love that this show just kind of does that because, mythology isn't always what you think it is, because it's like, oh yeah, it's like, because Dean was like, oh, Medusa, and you have like Rowena being impressed, like, oh, you know about Medusa, and it's like, no, you know about kind of like the more modern, fictional take on her and stuff like that, of like, oh, snakes in her head and everything, and she turns people to stones. It's like, no, Gorgons are more like venomous, paralytic stuff, but close to petrification, but it's not the same thing. What's also interesting too is apparently if they eat people's eyes, they can see into the future. It's just kind of interesting too, because it's just, because my only experience of a lot of times with obviously, like, Gorgons and stuff are like Greek mythology. I can think of God of War because it's interesting, because Gorgon eyes increase your health. I don't know, it's just kind of an interesting little detail. It's so interesting that we got to actually know this Gorgon a little too. Like, his name's Noah. He has a little pet snake named Felix and everything. So that's interesting. I even love him being like, honestly, I don't like eating people. It just kind of comes with the territory. And to be fair, it kind of gets boring. I mean, there's only so many ways you can cook humans. So there's that. I love the whole thing about, like, to get the anti-venom they needed to, like, make an anti-paralytic. They had Rowena used her magic to turn Jack into a dog, and her and Sam are acting like kind of like a married couple and stuff like that, going back and forth. And then and Sam's like, "What was that?" She's like, "Oh, come on, we can't, there's other ways besides saying, oh, we're the FBI." She's kind of making fun of them and be like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "Plus, I thought I did a kind of magnificent job." I'm like, "Yes, you did, Rowena. You did a magnificent job." I love it. And then Jack got anti-venom, and it's like, yeah, I wish I could have gotten to it before she checked my temperature. And then there was a long-ass pause of being like, oh. And he just kind of walks to the car. I also love the whole conversation because, like, Rowena's like, yo, last time I saw Jack, he was kind of in some bad shape. And it's like, she's asking about Jack's situation, and, Sam just keeps kind of avoiding the conversation. And it's like, oh, using some magic that, don't know what the cost is, but you don't care, kind of sounds like me. And Sam's like, well, thank you. And she's like, and that was, let's not forget, not too long ago, I was the villain. Which, side note, I brought it up before, and I'll say it again. I love Rowena, dude. I'm just so happy to have her back into the show and everything. Like, I think I'm pretty sure I talked about this before, but I was super bummed when she got killed in season 12's finale. It's just a reminder, just like, I love you, Rowena. I love her dynamic with the Winchesters, because once again, it's that situation. It's just like the Crowley situation, which is interesting. It seems like people in that family just fall in love with the Winchesters, because, when it's all said and done, it's like, yeah, you can deny it all you want, but you come and help them all the time because you care about the Winchesters. You care about all of them, So I thought that's kind of pretty neat. But this episode brought up some interesting things, because obviously, like, Dean kind of brings up something jokingly about the whole aspect that everyone's like, oh yeah, I'm fine. It's like they all have a tendency to say we're fine. That's kind of just the thing to say, even though we're all not fine. Because the fact is that they're always dealing with something, but they don't really want to let everyone else worry about them. So it's like Dean's worried about the whole Michael situation, because it's like if he lets his guard down even for a second, Michael's going to escape, and it's just... So he's always got this constant headache. For him, it's like, okay, I'm going to give you guys the time you need, but that means when it's all said and done, I'm going to need you to, go with plan B and lock me in that coffin when the time comes. But, Cassio didn't want to, obviously still doesn't want to do that and everything, so... And also Jack is covering up the fact is that his sickness is like, I guess... there's residuals of it because he ends up kind of burning away part of his soul to kind of heal his throat, I guess, to kind of get rid of the symptoms and just his sickness, just to kind of make himself seem more healthy. I'm guessing the reason why it was coming back like that was because he had already started burning off part of his soul. Like, granted, I'm sure there's moments in between, episodes and stuff like that we haven't seen where he actually had been using his magic in some shape or form. Like, it didn't come up in the episode, but there was a part of my brain that was wondering, like, would you think on some level that Jack was using part of his magic to help Dean fight and keep Michael inside of his head? That's what I was thinking, but I could have been wrong. It's kind of interesting how this all kind of ties together in that story that Noah ended up telling Jack about the chicken and the snake, and about basically, and Cassiel kind of explained it later on, of basically being a story of how, like, a snake, it's a story about sacrificing what you love most to kill what you hate most, And that, I'm going to get into that in a second. But what was really interesting was, like, Jack kind of, I think this is the first time Jack really found out about what it was to be human, because for him it's like, what if Dean doesn't get better? But then Cassiel's like, you kind of have to prepare yourself, because Dean will get back up and he will be better after this. But it's just kind of like, yeah, we humans have a very different life expectancy than us, angels, where something else differently. We live a very much longer life, but like humans' lives kind of come and go. They're like a spark. They shine bright and then they burn out. And the fact is, I think this is the first time where because the sad thing is with Kelly, like, she died during childbirth, so that was a different situation. But he's never known, like, oh yeah, like, humans grow old and die, and that's a concept of living that I think Jack had never really contemplated until now. Like, others had been hurt, he wanted to save people's lives, because the people he's come across, they've died before, but it's never been someone so close and important to him that's died, aside from his mom. But like in this case, and the fact is that Cassio has to remind him, it's like, eventually they will die, and that's kind of part of life. Keep going on, and he's almost like existential question of being like, well, what's the point then? Like, but for Cassio, it's to remember that they live, because by you continuing on, you're continuing on, essentially by living on, it's like you're carrying on their beliefs, who they were, the memory of them stays alive with you. The fact of the matter is, and when Dean wakes up, and he will, we just have to be reminded, we have to cherish the time we have left, and it hurts like hell, and it kind of sucks in that regard, but that's just the sad part of living. It comes with the beauty and it comes with the sad, so. And that was just kind of an interesting thing. And even like going back to what I was saying about Rowena, like Rowena said yes. And I love that Rowena brought this up. She was like, oh yeah, you can try and threaten to kill me because I already know how my story ends. Sam kills me. That's immediately what I thought. I was like, oh, Michael's going to be rolling around Rowena's body. And ultimately, Sam's going to kill Rowena to save, to kill Michael or something. Like, I thought that was ultimately what was going to end up happening. But like, Rowena tried to use that to her advantage. But, Michael was like, oh yeah, and then I'm going to kill everyone in this bunker, including the people you care about. You want to pretend like you don't care about them, but you do. And so Rowena said yes to protect, the boys, But then you had, which, also, side note, it sucks because Maggie and the other hunters there died. Because I thought it was kind of interesting. I'm like, oh, we seeing Sam talk to Maggie. It was like, oh, she's just in this a little bit. It's like, oh, it's kind of interesting to throw her up in here a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, you're throwing her in here to kill her. It's so sad because she literally died before and now she's died again. I'm curious. Well, I'll get to it in a second. But then you have Jack making a sacrifice. I guess because burning away your soul gives you massive amounts of magical energy, I'm assuming. I wonder how powerful would Michael be inside of Rowena? Like, her having all that magic, does that actually boost his powers in any shape or form? I'm curious about that. Because I was curious, that was really interesting, because when it was all said and done, like when Dean ended up getting knocked out and stuff like that, I thought it was kind of fascinating, because I was like, oh man. I was like, oh, so man, Michael's going to get free and stuff like that. I didn't expect him to actually fly the coop, but it kind of makes sense in retrospect, because it's like, well, if he tried to take possession of Dean, it'd be too much of an issue. That he can't allow the situation potentially to happen again, that he might get locked up again. So he wasn't going to underestimate Dean. It's like Dean was able to hold him out this entire time. It's like, no. And obviously Dean got pissed, because I've been literally telling you guys we should throw me in a coffin, but now Michael's free and it's kind of on all of you. And so all those deaths are going to kind of be be on all of them. Like, Rowena's going to feel guilty too, because it's like she was the one who killed him, even though it was Michael. So that guilt's going to be on her. But the guilt's also going to be on everyone else, especially Dean, because it's like, I messed up. My one job was to keep him locked up, and I didn't. And obviously Sam and Cassio are going to be like, well, we're not going to, it sucks, but like, we were trying to help you, but the guilt's still going to be there for them. But you have Jack standing up to Michael and going like, I'm not going to let you hurt the people I love anymore, and ends up banishing him from Rowena. I was like, oh, is he about to kill him? It's like, no, he's swirling around, and then he's like, straight up kills him. I'm like, yo! Once again, Nephilims are supposed to become stronger than their parents, and once again, his dad is a archangel after all, so that means he is going to be well more powerful than an archangel. The situation is, oh dude, I started kind of piecing a lot of stuff together in my head, but I'll kind of save that for now. I'm stumbling all over my words. I'll share my thoughts in a little bit, but the fact is that Jack ended up getting his grace back, and he's fully back to being an angel and everything. It's like, yeah, that's dope. And then it's like the story about, because once again, he was like, oh, I can't tell whether you're the chicken in the story or the snake. And that's because in that moment when he sacrificed his soul to kill Michael, he burned away the last of his humanity. I think even if he's complete now, I don't think Jack's human anymore. The thing I was also wondering too is, because he has these cosmic abilities, I'm wondering will he try and reverse time and bring everybody back to life. I don't know if he'd do that or not. But I don't know if that's even something in his wheelhouse. It'd be kind of cool if he could. I mean, it'd have to suck for Maggie, because if that were the case, it'd be like, man, you coming back from the dead twice, so. But yeah, I'm thinking like that's what that is. And now Michael's going sure, but now Jack's going to be the threat, because it's like Sam when he was kicking it without a soul, like, his humanity is what kept him in line. It's what kept him from being like his dad, like Lucifer, that human side of him. And now that he burned away his soul, he's burned away all of his humanity. So he's still there and intact, but now he's back and being one of the literally the strongest beings in existence right now. Now, playing into some thoughts I had. One, that must mean they're going to lock Jack into the coffin. It might not be like that immediately, but eventually they're going to realize, like, we're going to have to put Jack in that coffin, whether it's going to be an easy thing or not. Now, that's enough to lock Michael up. An archangel, he's powerful and everything, but it might not be something you can do to lock Jack up. But then there's going to be the conflict of like, well, because the problem is, it's like we didn't act before and a lot of people died, but it's Jack. But it's like, if we don't do this, a lot of people are going to die. So it's going to be that situation. To me, I think this is going to tie into the empty and Castiel. What I think is going to be, no matter what the circumstances ultimately end up being, the fact is, once it's all said and done, Jack will probably get free and he'll be happy and he'll be healthy to a certain extent. But then Castiel will be like, oh, I'm happy, everything worked out, it looks like we're good. Then the empty will come and snatch him up. That's where my mind is currently. Like, that's how this is all kind of piecing together in my head. Might be wrong, but that's currently the theory I'm kind of running with for right now. Also, I hope we get to see more Rowena. Like I said, I can't help it. I should really see the actress. I'm pretty sure her name's Ruth Connell, right? I should go watch more stuff with her, because I love her. Just like what she does with Rowena is so good. I'd love to see what she does with the other characters. Side note, if I've seen her in some of the gag reels and like outtakes from past seasons and stuff like that. Just kind of a little tidbit, but nevertheless, that's where my mindset is on that right now. We'll see whether that ends up being the case, because it is interesting, because it's like, oh, Michael's dead, got rid of the main threat, maybe. Also, what about Dark Kaya? Because we still haven't circled back to that since like her spear got broken. Also, what does that also mean also for all the other, like, supernatural monsters supernatural monsters. The, like, enhanced monsters that Michael made. Does that mean that later on Jack, if he loses control, can control them? Is he going to go on a spree of just, like, going out there straight up killing all of them? Like, I'm sure, like I said, he no longer has morals, or probably like I said, I think all of his humanity kind of got burned away. Is there something they can replenish that with? Maybe that comes into the whole Sam and Rowena situation of Sam kills Rowena to give her soul to Jack to kind of bring him balance to save him, and that might in turn kind of turn into the whole empty and Castiel's situation. Because what was just popping in my head just now too was like, well, doesn't that mean the Empty could grab his soul? I mean, his soul is human, so the Empty doesn't go after humans. They go into heaven. But to be fair, he's still alive, but also it's like he burned away his soul. Like once you completely burned, well, no, because what's her face got reunited. Because she went to heaven, because even though she burned away that piece of her soul, but to be fair, she burned away that piece of her soul and died. Jack burned away that piece of his soul and lived because of the Nephilim side of him, so the angel side of him. So it's not going to work the same way. And also, I mean, I would assume that if Jack did die, he would simply just go to the Empty. But that was kind of that's what I'm saying. Like I think Rowena's going to sacrifice herself, and Sam's going to be the one to kill her to save, Jack, which in turn will kind of put Castiel at a point where he's super happy and then life will kind of be snatched from him. That's what I'm thinking just because of the Empty. Like I said, it could be wrong. I hope I kind of am wrong because it's like, oh, God, no, I want Rowena to be around forever. But that's the sad thing about knowing her fate. It means that at any point in time, we could get to that point where they kind of deal with it. It's kind of like the River Song situation of like, we always known since series 4 how River Song's story is always going to play out. It was just eventually that history was going to catch up with her, like it's kind of like, fate and destiny. Essentially there was no fighting, that type of thing. So it's kind of that same thing in this regard. It's interesting too because it shows that things can be changed to a certain extent, because it's like, well, Billy told Dean that things kind of had to play out this way. To be fair, she said Michael would get released and basically this world get destroyed. Probably didn't outright. I bet you there's going to be a technicality being like, I never said Michael was going to be the one to destroy it. So it's like it still ends up the same way. It's just a different person in that fact. I mean, it's because Jack is like he's the X factor, because a being like him shouldn't exist. He's a one of a kind. So a lot of aspects of just existence kind of don't correlate to him, so like I said, these are just kind of all my thoughts. This is all kind of flooding into my head, so we'll have to ultimately wait and see how things play out going forward. I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us. And now moving on to this week's episode of Legacies, a fantastic episode. Holy crap, so much stuff went down in this episode. We have to break it all down. Okay, first and foremost, I like that this episode is literally taking place right where the previous episode ended. It's like they just got back dealing with the mummy, and it's like, whoa, Landon, MG, and Raphael are all missing, but it's like a full moon, so it's like that's not good. The vampires need to be locked up so they're away from the werewolves. The werewolves need to be locked up just so they don't kill anyone in general. So it's like, what's going on here? So we find Raphael. He's kind of in a state of shock, and he's just like, I don't remember what happened. It's actually kind of interesting. I think it's the first time this ever happened in this series where basically something traumatic happened so that a wolf ended up reverting back to their human form during a full moon. I don't think that's ever happened before. Maybe it has, and I just don't remember. There's a lot of shows to cover in that regard of maybe it's something that popped up in the Vampire Diaries or the originals, but I don't think this specific situation has ever happened before. Like I said, I could be wrong. But because the trauma shifted him back, it scattered his brain a bit, and so his memories were a little fuzzy. And it's actually interesting, kind of breaking this story down, kind of getting it told like that. Raphael's trying to figure everything out, because it's sad at the same time because you can see hope is breaking down, because for her it's like she can't handle losing another person. She's already lost her mom, her dad. It's just there's a lot of, two most important people to her are gone. She can't let that happen to Landon too, because I think, it's a combination of she just outright, she loves Landon. And this is the first time she's really, even at the beginning, it's Landon was the first person she's opened up her heart to in a very long time. Well, there was the whole Roman situation, but this is something different. But, it kind of coincides in being kind of a similar thing in the situation. But what I thought was kind of, it's just, but I think it's also because she kind of feels, also responsible for him. It's I'm going to protect him because I love him and care about him, so it's kind of interesting because it's, in a way, Hope not telling him the truth kind of led to a little bit of it, and that's a big part of this episode. Is there's so much stuff that wasn't said, so many lies, because we learned about MG's situation, which is heartbreaking. Basically, his dad wants to have nothing to do with him, in the sense that his dad hasn't talked to him in like over a year, so I guess that's how long he's been a vampire. To be fair, it's like, yeah, they don't really know much, so I guess they are fairly new at this whole vampire situation. Like, it seems like Caleb might be in a similar boat as well, but definitely with MG, it's like a super recent situation. Interestingly enough, his dad is playing. I'm blanking on the actor's name. I want to say it's. I think I called it in the intro. I think, ain't it Christopher B. Duncan? I think that's him. I'm blanking on his character's name. The thing you like best know him from is like the Jamie Foxx show. It's like, dude, I was like, oh my god, that's your dad. I playing your dad in this show. So that's pretty dope. But God, I am blanking on his character's name. It's probably not going to come back to me, but still, nevertheless, even visiting his mom, like his mom kind of seemed a little assholeish because she was kind of being like, oh, the fact of the matter is your dad doesn't want to see you, because, and she brought up something, I was like, oh man, I didn't even think about that. It's like, your dad's religious, so for him it's like your condition isn't something that he can accept in his religion. I even love Landon kind of being a smart ass, being like, you know, the whole like, oh, it's, you know, because it's unnatural coming back from the dead, which Landon was kind of like, well, yeah, except for when it comes to Jesus and Lazarus. And like Raphael kind of looks at him almost like, dude, shut up. And then MG's mom looking at him like, shut the hell up too. You know, it's just kind of interesting. But the reason what I was saying, because Hope didn't tell Landon the truth about everything. Like, he doesn't remember meeting his mom and learning the truth and everything. So what ended up happening is, you know, Landon never got the truth himself, so he's telling MG, you need to find out the truth for yourself. And it has a give and take to it, because you, on one side of it, you're kind of like, you understand where Landon's coming from. You can make the argument he was doing it for selfish reasons, because he never got the truth himself. He wanted MG to kind of get it, so vicariously he'd get his own truth. Like, you know, it's like you taking your own dilemma and kind of putting it on me to kind of have to, you know, resolve your situation. You get what I'm trying to say? But I think it also comes from a place of Landon, you know, he knows what it's like to not know the truth. Because if you don't know the truth, you're always going to be wondering for the rest of your life. And it's like, he doesn't want that for, you know, MG. It's like, you have the opportunity to get the answers. Because if you don't get, yeah, you might say like you're happy you're not getting the answers, but you like I said, you'll spend your entire life wondering, and you'd rather kind of know definitively. But what we ended up finding out, and it's kind of a sad thing, is they never, like, MG's mom never told MG's dad about him coming back to life, because she felt like, oh, your dad wouldn't be able to handle it. You know, it's just, you know, that was the whole deal. Because when he met up with his dad was like, oh my God, my boy, you're back. It's a miracle. And it's like, whoa. I was like, wait, his dad doesn't know. It's like, did his dad get, like, you know, compelled or something like that? It's like, no, he never knew it. His mom has been covering for it the entire time, because the last thing MG's mom wanted to do was put her, because she does love her son. It's a super complicated situation. It is kind of sad, because part of you feels like she couldn't have, I guess for her, it's like, she rather the situation being it is. It's almost, because you could make the argument, I'm not saying it is this, but you could make the argument that she's choosing her husband over MG, because it's like, MG has to go to the school, be far away, no one can know that you're alive. To be fair, if regular people found out, whoa, he's alive, it complicates things. It's even a thing, and it's kind of a sweet thing that kind of turns a little sour. It's the fact is, it's like, oh, we could go out there, tell the whole world the truth, but MG was like, if the world found out I was still alive, like, everyone would think that you made the whole thing up, and it would kind of sink your campaign for being mayor and stuff like that. Because for him, because it starts off kind of seeming super messed up, because it's like, oh, his dad's speech that kind of got him set on this path that kind of went viral and stuff was him making a speech about having MG. He'd have do anything to have him back in his life. And at first, like I said, it makes you think he's a dick. It's like, oh, you know where your son is, and you're trying to take advantage, kind of almost like monetize off of that tragedy. But it's like, oh no, because he didn't know, because his wife kept it from him. And Alaric knew, because for Alaric, it's like he did this because it meant giving MG a place, a home where he can, you know, understand who and what he is, and, you know, learn to control it. But at the same time, going back to what I was saying, the other side of it is you can understand that this is a woman who, you know, MG's mom, it's like she wants to have both people in her life, but she doesn't think her husband would allow it. And at least this way, you know, she's able to keep the memory of their son alive without her husband demonizing MG in the form that he is. I think maybe there is going to always be a level of her scared about it. I mean, because it's interesting, because, like, that's something we got used to over the Vampire Diaries too, like, parents dealing with their vampire children. Look at Caroline and her mom, like, you know. I think that's like the only mother-daughter situation, like, I mean, like, parent-child situation like that, because every other, like, familial situation has been like a whole, like, you know, I mean, look at the originals. It's like, well, they're all vampires, and even Haley was a werewolf, so it's not like it was like a normal human balancing with the, I mean, obviously you had humans rolling with it, but it was never like a parental situation. You get what I'm trying to say? So it's interesting. So like I said, it's a situation where if you want to look at it one way, you could, but at the same time, and it's something that Caleb was like, oh, that's kind of messed up. It's kind of like, for him, it's like it's black and it's white, but Alaric's like, you're a smart person. I get, you really are, but the fact is, you're coming at this from a teenager's perspective. If you've seen and been through all that I've been through, you realize that life is not that black and white. There are plenty shades of gray, and I think MG's family situation is a heavy shade of gray. Like I said, you can fault, you know, their family one way for like, oh, not being able to accept MG for being who he is. The fact of the matter is, given enough time, maybe they would. Like, everyone's kind of had their hardships, and like in the grand scheme of the Vampire Diary universe, dealing with the reality of like the people you care about being something else, you know? It's not kind of that easy for some people, you know? I mean, it depends on the circumstances and stuff like that, but especially in his case of him being, like, I don't think that's ever come up, someone's religious situation kind of being a reason to kind of, like, push away, because in his mind, it's like, oh, you're a demon and stuff like that. And the sad thing is, MG ended up compelling his dad to tell him the truth, and it broke his heart. So it's just like, I want you to hold on to that boy that you love, that you meet him someday again, the boy who's, you know, who wants to do good, you know? And it's just a sad thing, and seeing MG kind of break down like that, because for MG, it's like he'd been away from his family, and now he knows the truth. Why? It just pissed him off. You know, because, I mean, like I said, I love this whole aspect of this episode being all about truth, you know, because there's the whole situation of Raphael. Like, Landon was like, no, I want you to tell me the truth. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about. The truth is that you have feelings for Hope. He's like, I would never act on it. He's like, I know, bro, but the fact is, I know what happens when you bottle stuff up. It doesn't do, it's not good, and it's almost like a bottle that's just waiting to be broken. And so it's like, he wanted to clear the air between them and stuff like that, because, you know, it is hard for Raphael to see Hope and Landon together. I even love the fact is that Caleb was asking Raphael to look after MG, because it's like, yeah, you kind of owe him too, you know, having, you know, slept with the girl, he was the woman he was madly in love with, that being Lizzie. And he was like, almost looking like, wait, you know about that? He's like, oh, dude, everybody knows that. Raphael turns to the side, and then, like, we don't get to see it, but Caleb's like, oh, yo, no, those two, they know too. Kind of be like, ugh, your business is all about. I wonder, did Lizzie kind of spread it? I don't know if Lizzie, like, I mean, Lizzie's kind of like narcissistic to kind of put herself in the center of everything, but I don't know if she would outright do that, or like, at least in this particular case or not. Either way. There's also an interesting thing too of, like, you know, once again, like, Hope's desperation, that she was kind of like, no, we have to give Raphael this, you know, as a crescent moon thing of being like, oh, this way he can balance, you know, get more control of the wolf side of things so he can remember everything. But Emma was super against it because she wants to keep, you know, Raphael's mind stable. And so, but Raphael was like, no, he's desperate to find out the truth about what happened to Landon too. And it's actually, like I said, it's just this sad situation of just like MG was so pissed off, he wanted to hurt Landon, ended up punching Landon. Landon ended up bleeding, and for MG, he's like, I have nothing left to fight for. Because I think for him, it's like, if he learned how to control his vampire side, he thought like, oh, I can go back home. But now it's like, he realizes like, even if I go back home, Dad will never accept me. Even if I got myself under control, he'd still look at me as a monster. Like I said, he was hurt, he was angry, all his, you know, he's a teenager, you know, so all his emotions were super heightened. Obviously that comes with being a vampire too. So he was just out of control and ended up killing Landon. I was like, gee, I knew something was going to happen later on, but I was like, no, I'll get to that in a second. But it's like, geez. And that's why Landon ended up biting him. And it's like, jeez, that's rough, dude. And it's like, Raphael's pissed, but he's like, I'm going to go find Landon's body, bring him back. And you had that dope moment between Caleb and MG. And let's not forget the fact is, no matter what the circumstances are, Hope was going to help MG, because it's like, because I think for her, she won't outright blame MG, because MG wasn't himself, and it's like, you know, the vampire side of things is very hard to control. Like, especially I think after all the damage her own family's done, I think she wouldn't be that judgmental. Like, she's hurting right now because the man she loves, the person she loves is gone, you know. Raphael is suffering because the person his brother is dead, and it's just like, and it was just hard. And you have like MG kind of suffering from it, and then like Caleb being like, the fact of the matter is, I said all this stuff kind of bragging about the awesomeness of being a vampire and stuff like that, but truth be told is, I say that because I'm just kind of as freaked out as you are, because you and me, we as vampires have a hard road ahead of us. Because like when you, like I said, like vampires are the most destructive of the supernaturals in this universe, and it's like they do have the hardest struggle, because yeah, werewolves have their situations, but you know, vampires have that constant need to feed. And you know, especially in MG's case of being a ripper, like once he gets that taste of blood, there's no stopping it. So he has to be among vampires. Always kind of have to be under control to some level. That's what's kind of interesting too, because I didn't even think about this last time when Caleb was like, "Oh, you need to let us get real blood so we can be on full strength." But it's like, last thing you want is MG on full blood, you know, because like he'd lose himself. He might do a terrible situation. Now, we haven't seen it yet pop up in the show, but we might see some humanities get flipped off or something. We haven't seen that. Probably don't want them learning about that, because we've seen Vampire Diary wise what the hell happens once someone's humanity gets flipped off, that whole situation. So. But I like the fact is that Caleb was like, the fact of the matter is, even if your family doesn't accept you, maybe given enough time they will, but even if they don't, the fact of the matter is you and me, bro, we are family. You know, and MG's like, people are going to hate me back at school. And he's like, and then they have to get to me. And it's like, I like that it brought MG and Caleb closer. And now it's the whole situation. They, you know, Raphael and Hope there with, you know, Landon's body. And then it happens. It wasn't until this, because I like, my thought was like, okay, like I figured Landon wasn't dead. I thought like, okay, something else, like I thought Raphael, by the time he goes there, like either Landon kind of resurrected or whatever, or I thought something would have taken him somewhere to be resurrected or something like that. I figured as much. I figured it couldn't end like this, or like it'd be much later on when they found out he resurrected. I didn't know. I was like, I'm so curious what they see it, because I knew he wasn't dead, but it still kind of hits you to go like, oh, it's kind of a gut punch. And then smoke comes up. I'm like, what the hell is that all about? I was like, oh, it's something about to envelop him or transform him or something. And then he caught on fire. I literally yelled it. I was like, he's a fucking phoenix. I knew at the moment he caught on fire. I'm like, of course, rising from the ashes. I was like, dude, that is so freaking dope. I never crossed my mind to think he was a phoenix. I'm not that familiar with phoenix mythology, so maybe there's something in over the course of this season to be like, oh no, he's totally a phoenix. There's probably stuff here and there that might have pointed to that. Hell if I know. But literally, that's so freaking dope. I knew he'd be some kind of supernatural, because like, you know, him being a child of Malivore and stuff. I mean, he's literally was born in the 2 years that his mom was in there. And now in retrospect, it makes me wonder, because I was thinking like, oh, he's a child of Malivore. I might have gotten this whole thing wrong. Landon it might not be like, oh, his father is Malivore or whatever. The fact of the matter is, it could be a situation where Sayla, in that 2 years she was in that emptiness, maybe she met up with a phoenix, and like at some point in time, like in that emptiness, they got together, and maybe the phoenix sacrificed itself to get her out of there. Because there's the whole conversation of Landon's dad that never really came up. So that might be something, you know, Sayla kind of kept to herself, you know, kind of took to the non-existence. Once again, we still don't know why Hope, but I still continue to chalk that up to be like, well, maybe that has something to do with once again, her being a tribrid and all that stuff, you know. But the fact is, that's crazy. Like, I think that must mean that his dad is a phoenix, which, like I said, I thought it was like Malivore needing him to be brought into this world. It's like, no. Like, Sayla must have met someone in Malivore. Like, we haven't seen, because Malivore's supposed to be the empty darkness, but I guess, like, if his dad's a phoenix, he might kind of be a bright light in the darkness, and they ended up finding each other, and to get her out, maybe he, like, I don't know. You know, because that was always a thing too, because like she was missing for like 2 years. So it's like, how did you come out with a baby when you were gone for like 2 years or whatever? So it's like, was the pregnancy on hold while you were in there, or was it like you were pregnant the last like 9 months you were in Malivore? Or, you know, maybe she just got pregnant before she left Malivore, and then 9 months later she hadn't landed. Either way, that's where my mind is currently about. That's so freaking dope. Which I guess that also means, like, once again, going back to the anti-magic thing, that Landon, I guess Phoenix's, like, magic doesn't work on him. Because, like, because Hope tried to use the magic to kind of block it stop him from catching on fire, but it didn't stop it. I mean, because, it comes from them naturally. I don't think it's like a magic thing. But I'm so curious, like, what's it going to look like? Oh, dude, I am losing my damn mind. This is so freaking dope. I cannot... Dude, I'm too damn giddy. I just think that's the coolest thing. Phoenixes are such fascinating creatures. It's also because what's also dope is it's like when he resurrects, it's not like, oh, he goes back to being baby. You would kind of think that potentially does, because I think it also comes down to what mythology you go by. But it's like, no, he just comes back as himself. It's interesting to... I'm not going to go down it because it's a stupid thing, a tangent I would have gone down, so it's not important. But still, oh, that's so dope. To me, this kind of changes everything. Now, there's also, like, it just shows that he resurrects, but now that he kind of knows what he is, maybe that's why he was able to survive the bus now. Like, that's what I'm talking about in retrospect. You think of, because everything and everyone on that bus got turned to ashes. Well, the fact is he rises from the ashes, so the dragon probably might have burned him, and then he just got resurrected and he just didn't remember, because everyone else was surrounded by, everyone else was kind of turned to ash at that time, so maybe he just thought, like, he didn't realize, like, it was from himself, maybe it was from... Who knows? Dude, I am telling you, this is... I mean, the sad part, well, not unless we end up finding out the sad part, well, because that would have meant that he would have had to die first. Like I was about to say, if all the people on the bus ending up like that was because of him and not the dragon, then it would have been a situation of he would have had to die first to, like, have, burn and burn everyone else on the bus. But I don't think he would have, so I think it had to be the dragon, but he came from the ashes afterwards. Potentially, I don't know. But that is crazy. I am so interested to see where this takes us. Like I was trying to bring up earlier, it's like, makes you wonder what can Landon do as a phoenix. Like, what special abilities does he get from it? Like, obviously, like, he can come back, which is also kind of sad too, because that means on some level he's probably immortal, because he will always keep coming back, which, hey, that works out, considering the fact is, like, Hope, being the tribrit that she is, means she's... I actually don't know what the hell that means for her. I mean, a hybrid, it has the same immortality as a vampire, but Hope isn't actually a vampire, so I think she has a normal human life expectancy, isn't she? I mean, to be fair, she's uncharted territory. Like, no other tribrid has existed before her, so... Like I said, this show is so great, because the fact is, it just kicks the Vampire Diary universe into overdrive, dude. I am so excited to see what the next episode has in store for us with all of this. Because I'm starting to think now, because of this episode, Hope might tell Landon the truth about the whole Malivore situation and his mom. So we'll ultimately, like I said, have to wait and see. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.